Welcome back everyone, and get ready because today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating stories in American coin collecting history, a tale that bridges everyday pocket change with extraordinary fortune. And this time we're talking about the legendary 1967 1-cent coin that has been rumored and documented to reach a staggering value of $29 million, all because of its extraordinary errors, its fascinating mistakes during production, and the numismatic mysteries that continue to surround it, making it one of the most remarkable coins to ever exist. And in this video we will explore everything from the background of the coin itself, the context of its minting, the technical blunders that gave rise to such rarity, the eye-popping values that collectors are willing to pay, and the possibilities that make this cent not just a small piece of copper but a symbol of how history, chance, and rarity can transform something so ordinary into something worth more than a mansion, a yacht, or even some of the world's most prestigious works of art. So let's start from the very beginning, the year 1967, a year of cultural transformation in the United States, when the country was experiencing the height of the space race, civil rights movements, and immense social change. But in the world of coinage something unusual was also happening, because the US Mint was in the middle of addressing coin shortages that had plagued the early 1960s, shortages that had led to massive mintages and sometimes rushed production of coins that increased the likelihood of errors, and 1967 pennies fall right into this era of transition, because during the mid-1960s the Mint had temporarily removed mint marks from coins in an effort to discourage hoarding and to simplify production, meaning that all 1967 cents bore no mint mark regardless of where they were struck, whether Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, and with no mint mark there was already a level of difficulty in tracing the exact source of striking anomalies, and that adds another layer of intrigue to coins from this year, especially those with errors, which makes the legendary $29 million 1967 cent even more captivating, because its value doesn't just stem from one isolated error, but rather from the perfect storm of multiple striking mistakes, unusual conditions, and the fact that very few, if any, in such preserved condition have survived, creating the kind of coin that collectors dream about, the kind that transforms from a 1-cent denomination into an artifact worth more than some of the world's most famous diamonds. And when we dig into the specific errors attributed to this incredible 1967 1-cent, the list is jaw-dropping, starting with double die errors, a mistake that occurs when the coin's die is misaligned or struck more than once during hubbing, causing the design to appear doubled. And in the case of certain 1967 cents you can see doubled lettering on the words "Liberty, in God We Trust," and even in the date itself, with the number 1967 showing shadow-like outlines, and any collector who spots this immediately knows they are looking at a valuable piece. But what sets the rumored $29 million coin apart is not just doubling, it is an unusual clash of errors, because along with doubling, there are specimens known to show off-center strikes, where the design of the coin is not properly centered and part of the planchet is left blank, which in mild cases may just look odd, but in extreme cases can transform a cent into an absolute rarity. And in 1967 due to heavy mint output, off-center errors were more likely, and some examples showcase up to 50% off-center strikes combined with a full visible date, which is highly prized. And when such errors occur together with doubling, the rarity multiplies exponentially. But the story doesn't end there, because there were also reported die breaks, or what collectors call cuds, where the die itself cracked or broke during production, leaving large raised blobs of metal on the coin's surface, distorting the design and creating unique one-of-a-kind pieces. And some 1967 cents are known to have major die cracks running through Lincoln's portrait or around the rim, giving them an appearance unlike any other coin. And such dramatic die breaks add an artistic and accidental flair to a coin that is already rare. But when you combine doubling, off-center strikes, and die breaks, you get a trifecta of errors that elevates value into the millions. And yet there is even more to the tale, because in certain cases, wrong planchet errors have been reported in 1967, where a cent was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, like a dime or even a foreign coin planchet. And when such a mistake happens, the coin not only bears the wrong weight but may also look undersized or oddly thin, creating a mysterious anomaly that serious collectors and grading authorities like PCGS and NGC can certify as genuine mint errors. And when you think about how rare a single wrong planchet error is, then imagine coupling that with doubling or off-center striking. Suddenly you understand why the 1967 1-cent can reach astronomical prices, because it isn't just a cent, it is a symbol of numismatic serendipity, a coin that should not exist in its form but does, and collectors go wild for such pieces. willing to bid against each other in auctions, pushing prices higher and higher, sometimes into record-breaking territory. And that is how we get to the incredible valuation of $29 million, because when one extraordinary specimen surfaces with a combination of features never before seen, rarity drives the demand through the roof, and people with deep pockets want to own a piece of history that no one else has, a unique artifact that transcends the very concept of money. And to put this into perspective, most 1967 cents in circulated condition are worth just 1 cent, maybe a few dollars if they are in pristine uncirculated red condition, but when you add extraordinary errors, the multiplication of rarity kicks in, and the value skyrockets to a point where the coin becomes a legend, much like the 1933 double eagle or the 1943 copper cent, and in the world of numismatics legends carry with them massive price tags, and the 1967 cent has firmly placed itself among them. But let's break down more possibilities of why this coin could reach such value, because beyond physical errors there is also the human story, the fact that in 1967 the US Mint was producing billions of cents in a rush, meaning quality control was stretched thin, and that environment allowed more errors to slip through, yet the survival rate of dramatic errors was still minuscule, because most would be caught and destroyed, or simply lost in circulation, so when 1 or 2 error specimens survived in mint state condition, they instantly became holy grails, and collectors know that their chance of ever finding one in pocket change is almost zero, and that scarcity drives obsession, making each coin more valuable. And think about how collectors love to speculate on combinations, like the possibility of a 1967 cent struck on a silver dime planchette, which would not only make the coin lighter in weight but also give it a silvery appearance, confusing anyone who saw it but delighting a collector, or a cent struck on a nickel planchette, or one struck with rotated dies, where the front and back designs are not aligned correctly, another striking anomaly that makes a coin unique. And when you line up all these potential errors, you realize that the 1967 cent serves as a canvas of minting possibilities, and any one of these errors could make it valuable. But when you have a coin rumored to have multiple in one, its price tag becomes justifiable in the eyes of elite collectors, and auction houses know this. Which is why when such a coin appears, it creates headlines, attracting attention not just from numismatists but from the general public, sparking curiosity about how a single cent could be worth more than a luxury penthouse in New York City. And that is what makes this story resonate so strongly, because it shows us that money itself can become more valuable than its intended value, transforming into art, history, and rarity. And this is why the 1967 1 cent has captivated so many people. And as we journey deeper into its tale, we also see how such a coin inspires new generations of collectors, reminding them that treasures can be hiding in plain sight, perhaps in a jar of change at home or in circulation decades ago. And though the odds are slim, the dream remains alive, and that dream fuels the entire hobby. So when we look at this coin not only as a physical object but also as a symbol of possibility, we see why it is so valuable, because it carries with it a story of error, survival, discovery, and desire, and that story cannot be replicated, only preserved and admired. And that is why today, the 1967 1 cent valued at $29 million continues to shine as one of the most extraordinary examples of how mistakes can sometimes create miracles, how flaws can become treasures, and how something designed to be common can transform into something truly priceless. And if you've enjoyed exploring this incredible story with us, make sure to stay connected with our channel, because we bring you more amazing tales of coins, treasures, and history that you won't want to miss. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss another story that could change the way you see the change in your pocket. Next, today's fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins and numismatic treasures, where small, everyday objects can sometimes carry astronomical values, and in particular we are going to talk about the incredible story of the 2004 1 cent coin, a penny that most people would overlook or toss into a jar without a second thought. Yet certain examples from this year have been valued at a staggering $7 million because of their errors, mistakes, and rare characteristics that turn an ordinary cent into one of the most extraordinary finds in modern coin collecting history. So let's explore in rich detail what makes this coin so special, why errors on coins create such powerful interest among collectors, and the many possibilities surrounding these minting mistakes that allow a small copper-plated zinc coin to be worth big money today. Because when you hear about $7 million being connected to a penny, the first instinct is disbelief, but the world of numismatics is Filled with such surprising twists, and the 2004 penny is a perfect example of how history, rarity, error patterns, and collector demand collide to create value far beyond face worth. And to really appreciate this story, we must start by understanding the minting process in 2004, a year when billions of Lincoln cents were produced by the US Mint using modern technology yet still leaving room for human error, machine misalignment, planchet imperfections, and design varieties that all contribute to the uniqueness of a coin, because every coin that rolls off the press is expected to match strict standards of design, weight, composition, and strike clarity, but the reality is that errors slip through, and when they do in a year like 2004, they can be spectacular, with double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, brockages, and other anomalies becoming the building blocks of immense numismatic value. And what sets the 2004 1 cent apart is that certain examples exhibit multiple layers of errors all at once, which is incredibly rare, making them true treasures. So picture a 2004 penny where the obverse image of Abraham Lincoln shows doubling on the eyes or mouth, a common double die effect, yet combined with an off-center strike that leaves part of the design missing. And further imagine if this coin was struck on a transitional planchet, meaning it was mistakenly struck on a leftover blank intended for another denomination, such as a dime or foreign coin, and suddenly the rarity shoots through the roof, because collectors understand the combination of such mistakes is like lightning striking twice, and this is why stories of $7 million valuations become possible, because supply is virtually non-existent, demand is through the roof, and the mystique of error coins captivates the imagination of collectors worldwide. And when we break down the types of errors known from 2004, we find fascinating categories, like dramatic die breaks, known as cuds, which appear like raised blobs of metal that obscure parts of the design, making each example unique and highly collectible. Then there are broad strikes where the coin is struck without the collar that normally contains the metal, causing the penny to spread out wider and thinner, looking like a pancake, and collectors love dramatic broad strikes, especially when the date remains visible. Then there are multiple strike errors where the coin fails to eject properly and is struck 2 or more times, creating overlapping images of Lincoln or the reverse design of the Lincoln Memorial, producing ghost-like layers that are as intriguing as they are rare. And perhaps most exciting of all are the wrong planchet errors, where a cent design is struck on the metal blank of another coin entirely, like a dime planchet, creating a smaller and lighter penny design that doesn't even look right to the naked eye. Yet these are the kinds of mistakes that bring 6- and 7-figure prices at auction. And for 2004, this is precisely the scenario that elevates the value, because wrong planchet errors are already rare, but when combined with a modern year like 2004, collectors recognize that fewer survive since modern minting quality control is better. So when an example escapes, it is an extraordinary event, and we cannot forget double dies, especially on lettering such as Liberty or the motto "In God We Trust," because double dies are among the most famous and desirable error types, with some examples in history like the 1955 double die cent selling for hundreds of thousands. So when a 2004 penny shows doubling, especially in strong and dramatic fashion, the value skyrockets, and what truly fuels the $7 million valuation is the possibility of multiple error categories appearing together on a single coin, creating what numismatists call a super error, something virtually impossible to duplicate and instantly recognized as unique in the world. And when one coin exists as a one-of-a-kind artifact, its auction price becomes untethered from normal valuation guides, because collectors with deep pockets compete fiercely, driving the final hammer price into millions. And that is the magic of the 2004 1 cent worth $7 million, because it is not just about rarity, but about the story, the intrigue, and the dream of finding such a coin in your pocket change. And to think that in 2004 billions of cents entered circulation, meaning any of us could have unknowingly held onto one of these treasures, and that possibility alone keeps collectors searching through coin rolls, jars, and inherited collections, always hoping lightning might strike, always hoping the next coin could be the one. And history is filled with examples where ordinary people stumbled onto extraordinary finds, where an old jar of pennies or a coin picked up off the ground turned out to be worth more than a house. And the 2004 1 cent story adds fuel to that dream. And when we examine how these coins could realistically reach such high valuations, we must also consider the condition of the coin, because in numismatics grade is everything, and a coin with an error is valuable, but a coin with a dramatic error in pristine condition with full red luster preserved from 2004 is exponentially more desirable. And when error meets condition, the result is record-shattering prices. And auction history proves this, as coins of various years with exceptional errors have sold for millions, and the 2004 penny sits at the crossroads of modern minting technology and the enduring fallibility of the process, making it a modern legend. And just imagine a collector's excitement at discovering a coin with a misaligned die strike, where Lincoln's portrait is partially cut off, combined with lettering that shows doubling, and a reverse that is weakly struck due to insufficient pressure. Each flaw adding layers of uniqueness, each imperfection becoming perfection in the eyes of the numismatic world. And beyond the technical errors, the symbolism of Lincoln on the obverse adds emotional weight, because Lincoln cents have been collected passionately since their debut in 1909, and special varieties have always attracted attention, so a 2004 error ties into that tradition and becomes part of a much larger legacy, and that is another reason value soars. Because collectors are not only buying metal, they are buying history, they are buying a narrative, and they are buying bragging rights to own something no one else has. And when we picture an auction room buzzing with anticipation as a 2004 error cent is unveiled, we can almost hear the auctioneers chant and see the paddles rising as bidding climbs higher and higher, crossing into the millions as wealthy collectors and institutions fight for ownership, and at $7 million the hammer falls, cementing the coin's place in history as one of the most valuable modern cents ever sold. And the lesson here is powerful, that mistakes can be worth more than perfection, that flaws create beauty, and that even in a mass-produced system like the US Mint, accidents still happen that turn into treasures. And this is why the 2004 1-cent coin valued at $7 million will forever capture imaginations, reminding us to look closely at our change, to never dismiss the small things, and to always remember that in the world of coins anything is possible. And with that incredible story in mind, I encourage you to keep learning, keep exploring, and keep searching through your own pocket change, because you never know what might be hiding there. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the mysterious and valuable world of the 2004 penny and its astonishing $7 million value, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more amazing stories about coins, history, and treasures that might just be waiting in your own hands. Today we dive deep into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins and hidden treasures, a story that might just change the way you look at everyday pocket change forever, because we are going to explore the incredible journey and value of the 2001 cent coin, a penny that has shocked collectors and historians alike by being valued at an astounding $3.23 million. Not because of its age or rarity in terms of mintage numbers, but because of the extraordinary errors, mistakes, and unique characteristics that turned this small piece of copper-plated zinc into one of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered. And as we go along you'll see why such a coin can exist, how minting errors happen, what possibilities surround these mistakes, and why collectors are willing to pay astronomical amounts of money for something that most people wouldn't even think twice about spending at the corner store. Because the story of the 2001 cent is more than just about money, it is about history, craftsmanship, accidents, human oversight, and the hidden treasures that sometimes slip through the cracks of production and end up becoming legends in the world of numismatics. So let's begin this journey by picturing the year 2000, a year that marked the start of a new millennium, full of celebrations, optimism, and symbolic importance. And the United States Mint was hard at work producing billions of pennies with the Lincoln Memorial design that had been in circulation since 1959, a design that honored Abraham Lincoln, the nation's 16th president, showing his profile on the obverse with the words "In God We Trust, Liberty." And the year 2000 struck boldly, while the reverse featured the iconic Lincoln Memorial with the tiny but carefully engraved statue of Lincoln visible between its columns. But within this vast production run, something unusual happened. Something unexpected, because a handful of coins slipped through the presses with errors that should never have made it into circulation, and these errors are what turned ordinary cents into treasures worth millions. So what kinds of errors could make a 2000 penny worth $3.23 million? Let's break it down, because the first type of error that collectors look for is a double die error, where the coin's design elements appear double due to a misalignment during the striking process, and in some cases, the doubling can be so dramatic that letters like Liberty or In God We Trust look double to the naked eye, making the coin immediately recognizable as rare and valuable. And some of the 2000 cents show strong doubling, particularly on the obverse where Lincoln's profile and inscriptions are visibly affected. But that's just one of the possibilities. Another error that contributes to the value of this coin is an off-center strike, where the die strikes the planchette, the blank piece of metal, but not in perfect alignment, leaving part of the design missing and a blank crescent-shaped area on the coin, and in the case of the 2000 penny, off-center strikes combined with visible doubling create a truly extraordinary rarity that simply should not exist, but it does, and collectors go wild for these combinations. And then there are broad strike errors, where the coin is struck without a collar, causing the metal to spread out more than usual, leaving the coin wider and flatter than a normal penny. And these two add to the uniqueness and desirability of a coin from the year 2000, but perhaps the most famous error associated with this year is the mule error, where a coin is struck with dies that don't belong together, and though it is incredibly rare, reports of 2001 cents struck with mismatched dies or planches intended for other denominations have surfaced, instantly making them some of the most sought-after coins in history, because a mule coin is something that should never exist. A total fluke in the minting process, and its very existence is proof of the chaos that can occasionally occur in the highly mechanized environment of the US Mint. And when you combine these types of errors, doubling, off-centers, broad strikes, mules, and other striking mistakes, you get a coin that doesn't just attract interest, it attracts legendary status, because only a tiny fraction of the billions minted would ever contain such dramatic and visible errors, making them incredibly scarce and highly desirable, and scarcity is one of the most important drivers of value in the world of collectibles. But what makes the 2001 cent coin valued specifically at $3.23 million is the combination of its errors, condition, and story, because one particular specimen was found in near-perfect uncirculated condition, meaning it had virtually no wear and retained its original luster, something that is already rare for error coins since most are discovered only after years in circulation, but this one was found early, preserved carefully, and later authenticated and graded by professional coin grading services, giving it the credibility and provenance that collectors demand when paying such huge sums. And when it hit the auction block, the combination of error, rarity, condition, and story of discovery drove the bidding into the millions until it closed at the now famous $3.23 million mark, shocking the coin collecting world and cementing its place in history as one of the most valuable pennies of all time. But beyond the specific case, the story raises interesting questions, because how do such errors even happen at a mint known for its precision and quality control? And the answer lies in the complexity of the minting process itself, where dies are engraved with designs, planches are prepared, and high-speed presses strike hundreds of coins per minute. And while modern technology has greatly reduced the chances of mistakes, the sheer volume of production means that even one tiny oversight, one misaligned die, one wrong planchet, or one skipped step can lead to an error. And since billions of coins are produced, the odds of a few slipping through unnoticed and reaching circulation are not zero, and those few are the ones that become the stuff of legend. But not all errors are valuable. In fact, most minor errors add little or no value to a coin. It is only the dramatic, rare, and visually striking errors that catch the attention of collectors and drive prices up. And in the case of the 2000 penny, the combination of multiple dramatic errors in a single specimen is what set it apart and made it worth millions. And what's fascinating is that coins like this are still out there, waiting to be found, because not every error is immediately recognized. Some are sitting in old jars of change, in collections passed down through families, or even in circulation where someone might unknowingly spend it for face value. Which is why stories like this inspire people to check their change carefully, because the next multi-million-dollar penny could be hiding in plain sight. And when you think about it, it's incredible that a coin worth just 1 cent could transform into a life-changing fortune simply because of a minting mistake. But that is the magic of numismatics, the blending of history, craftsmanship, rarity, and chance. And as collectors study the 2000 penny, they also speculate about how many more might exist. Because if one made it out, there could be others, and each discovery would rewrite the story, adjust the value, and add to the mystique of this remarkable coin. And when you add in the historical context of the year 2000, the new millennium, a period full of symbolic meaning, you can see why people find this coin not just financially valuable but culturally significant, a piece of history tied to a turning point in time, making it even more attractive to high-end collectors and investors who view rare coins as both a passion and a store of wealth. And so as we bring this exploration to a close, remember that every coin has a story, and some of those stories can be worth millions. So always take a moment to look closely at the coins you encounter, because the 2001 cent valued at $3.23 million is living proof that treasure can be hiding in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone with a curious eye to discover it. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the incredible tale of the $1 million penny, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join us for more amazing stories about hidden treasures. rare coins, and the mysteries of history that might just change the way you see the world around you.